Welcome back to Second Nature. We have an extremely special episode today because not only are we joined by Breakfast Club, but we also have a special guest co-host joining us as well, Jeremy Dunn. I'm excited for this one.
Oh, me too. Thanks for having me be a part of this.
Breakfast Club. Actually, I've just got to give this out to you guys to really kind of bring us up to speed. We've got Grant and Jordy here. Grant, could you maybe give us sort of the origin story for Breakfast Club, and then we can kind of go from there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Grant, one of the founders of Breakfast Club, one of the four. Me, my friend Jake, Matt, and Justin, 5 years ago now, just started riding bikes on a Saturday morning in Austin. We kind of approached it in the sense of like, let's go ride some punchy hills for a couple hours and kind of spend a lot of time hanging out after. And it all kind of like started when we joined this crazy epic ride in Austin. It happens once a year. It's called Tour das Hugel, and it's tour of all the worst hills in Austin. And being hill lovers, we went on that ride. And I think two climbs in, we're like, screw this. We're just going to go get breakfast. This thing sucks, right? And so then we went and got breakfast and hung out for probably more hours than we rode. And that approach to like the sport of having it be something that we wanted to push ourselves and have an opportunity to do that, but like really kind of just embrace the people side of it more. It was kind of what carried through to then the ultimate founding of Breakfast Club, when we thought, hey, let's put this on Instagram and invite some other people to join and see if anyone else wants to ride for a couple hours and hang out for a couple more hours after. And fast forward to now, that's grown from 4 or 5 of us every Saturday to now one Saturday a month. It's gotten so big, we've hit, I think, 900, almost 1,000 riders on a Saturday morning here in Austin. So a lot has changed between then and now, but that's kind of how it all started.
To give a little bit more context to those 900 person rides, I mean, what is the experience like? Because I've seen you guys have like a police escort. You've got it broken up into different groups. You've got ride leaders. I mean, it's a well organized like machine in terms of the
Yeah.
execution of these rides. It's not just a show up and blow up kind of ride. This is like probably the most dialed group ride on the planet. Give me a little bit more about what is the experience for somebody that's showing up at Breakfast Club for the first time.
It is a well-oiled machine, and that's not just because of me and Jordy here. It's because we have, built a team around Breakfast Club, and it's definitely a labor of love for everyone. And throughout the past few years, as we've grown, we've had people that have wanted to go above and beyond and help us, and those are now our ride leaders. And we have a team of 25, and so these 25, I think the most we've ever had on ride is around like 20, because life comes up and things happen. But our ride leaders spread out throughout 4 groups, and so we have our A group, our B group, our C group, and our D group. And A group, the ride leaders and the group will, might feel like a race at times. It's pretty fast. It's your people who do race bikes or wish they did. Then you have our B group, which is a bit more steady. B stands for big, is what we say. It's also our biggest group. On our big ride days, that can be 400, 450 people in just B group. C group is definitely our most dynamic group. That's where a lot of people who have jumped up from D group, it's their first time in a really big group. Our ride leaders take a lot of care in C group, and that route is a little bit slower and shorter than A and B, obviously. And then we have our D group, which is also like what we say, the heart and soul, the bread and butter of Breakfast Club. It's like you got people who are hopping on a bike for maybe the first time. They want others around. Maybe they're a weekend cruiser on a tandem bike. Maybe they have their dog or their baby on their bike as well, and they're hanging out and they just want to socialize and have a good time. And everyone starts and ends together. So people in the A group, people in the D group, we all start at Central Machine Works. We all end at Central Machine Works about 2 hours later, and then we hang out and have fun from there. But A, B, and C groups are the groups that have the vehicle escorts. And just because of the size and for safety reasons and not putting all that liability on 5 ride leaders per group, we have our vehicles that lead us around, and that's a front and a follow. It's kind of a rolling enclosure.
Jeremy, were you in the A group when they came to Portland?
He was in the B group
He
with
was
our group.
not.
Sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I know.
No,
I
no,
know.
that's funny though, because that was the big question with everyone, right? And so, are you going to do the A group? Are you going to do the B group? And I was like, I'm just going to go where all my friends are. So I just want to hang out.
Hmm.
And so we ended up going in the B group. Our friend Jimmy was kind of like ringleader of the B group here, so we were all following him.
So we've got a little bit of the origin story here, but Jordy, tell me about how you got involved with Breakfast Club. What was your entrance point, and can you fill us a little bit more in on what you lead?
Actually, Grant and I met, we've decided that we met in college at some point in time because we both went to the University of Texas. But I think I showed up to, I think it was ride number two, that Breakfast Club's official hosted ride, which was coincidentally Grant's first ride. And so I just like, I think I just popped on Grant's wheel and just like kind of rode behind him. Of course, there's only, the 90 guys to one girl ratio that proceeded in that first ride. But, it was like, oh, I think there was maybe like 15 people whenever I showed up. So yeah, so what I have since then is I've kind of, like Grant said, invested some time. My biggest thing for the community is to build the female ridership of the group, which I feel like we've done a very good job with. I believe there's 7 female ride leaders out of the 25. And so we have, up until this past year, we've done a weekly women's ride just to create another entry point into Breakfast Club because when you obviously roll up to 900 people, it's a little overwhelming for anybody. So creating another type of entry point, a meeting point where other women, like-minded women, can meet and ride and build that type of community. And now I think we're to the point where it's not quite a 50-50 split men to women, but it's pretty damn close. I would say it's probably a 60-40. So it's something that I'm like super proud of and take a lot of pride in. But yeah, it's just, we have a Wednesday women's ride. We call it the Babes Ride. So we have a spicy Babes Ride, which is our intermediate group, and then our regular Babes Ride, where we do the same route, which is it's still kind of the hill format where we do like one big hill. But for the original that we call it the OG Babes route, it's for newer riders. Not everyone has the fancy bike computer and all that stuff. So if you know where the route's going, we're going to do the same one regardless. Creates familiarity. And then as you matriculate and move up in group and your skill and your confidence, then we have another group to kind of capture that group as well, that maybe they're interested in racing. Maybe they want to ride harder hills. Maybe they want to go a little bit faster. We have that as well. So that's kind of where we started.
I feel like any event producer would kill to have that 50-50 split. And it seems like the
We're
intention
close.
that you put into it is really what has driven so much of that, having that entry point with those weekly rides and everything else. Is there anything else that you feel like has driven the success of really welcoming those riders into the mix beyond the weekly ride?
For at least for the Austin community, I can't speak, nationwide or whatever, but at least for the Austin community, I've been riding bikes for nearly 13 years, and it's always been very race centric. Like we're gonna go out, we're riding to race, and so I think the other kind of the dichotomy shift on that is we're riding to just have fun. We're riding to drink wine afterward. Like we're riding more for the social aspect. Of course, we're gonna like do a hard workout, do a hard ride. But at the end of the day, it's about getting to know the people in your community, which I think has been awesome. For me, it's like I meet so many different people in different industries that I would never interact with. I mean, Grant and I both do this outside of our full-time jobs. So I think that's another cool thing. It's like I would never interact with these people otherwise had we not been brought together by bikes. So I think that's another cool point.
And I'll jump in really quick. I think also that plays a factor in that, and just like at large for Breakfast Club, is we have like progression points. So not only is there like an entry, but there's also like a progression within. And while it may not be race focused, it's like you can progress throughout these groups in intensity and distance, and you can feel that personal growth and physical growth within
Hmm.
Breakfast Club as well. So I think that helps on top of that.
I would also say, I can speak a little bit to the national side of it. I did one of the Breakfast Club rides in Austin last year. I think it was February, It was the only
That
one
was a fun one.
where it was raining and there was one
Hmm.
person that had a rain jacket. That
The
was
guy from
me.
Portland, who would have thought?
Yeah.
We don't have rain jackets.
Everyone, when I took it out, everyone was like looking at me like,
Whoa.
what is
Whoa.
that?
Bag of tricks.
Um, but also then, riding here, kind of bringing you guys here to ride in Portland, I'm blown away by your ride leaders. Like, I don't know how, like, maybe you can talk a little bit about how you sort of choose them or how they naturally become the ride leaders. But, you know, everyone was super nice, very timely. Everyone had the routes. Everyone was like, it was cool to see because even stepping into like a new city where they had no idea what was going on, they were very engaged and like you said, interested in the other people that were on the ride. What do you do? What's your deal? How'd you get into riding bikes? It was really cool. And I think in the cycling scene in general, you just don't see that a lot.
Mhm.
So how do these ride leaders sort of come to you? How do you vet them? How do they, I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
it's natural, but
yeah. We say this every month. It's like Breakfast Club. This thing would not exist without every single one of our ride leaders. And Jordy and I have talked a lot about, our ride leader crew and how we are kind of a family and how we take care of each other. And that all started from like within every single person that is a ride leader. It's like we don't go out. I don't think we've ever gone out asking like, hey, do you want to be a ride leader? Here's the requirements. It's very like homegrown, and every single person who is a part of our ride leader crew is so amazing because they've taken it upon themselves to like go above and beyond and show up, and we're like, wow, all of a sudden we realize we could not be doing this without you. Like, this makes sense.
Yeah, and I think something else too, that something that our ride leaders have demonstrated whenever it's kind of like we're coming to like that moment where like, oh, this makes a lot of sense, is they always will put the ride or the community before themselves. So before they, they'll ride with D group, and obviously D group's not going to be a great workout for some people, but they'll sacrifice their workout to make sure that that group is taken care of, and that's their focus, and they want to make sure that goes well. And I think too, it's like it's been interesting to see, everyone kind of plays like a unique role. We have like an operations team and we have like a marketing team now. And then so before we didn't have that, but now it's kind of like people once again have different backgrounds, and so they can kind of like say, hey, we've got a nurse that's like on a ride leader, and so she's like, hey, like we need to do this as far as like first aid, and like we're like, oh yeah, obviously that makes a lot of sense, we should definitely do that. So everyone kind of brings their own like expertise to it as well, which is like very fruitful for the whole group.
I want to go down this path because I think there's a lot of stops along the way of the evolution of Breakfast Club and from where it started to now. Jordy, you're saying there's like a marketing team and there's an operations team and all these things, including developing ride leaders. And then we can get to the membership, the app, these other rides on top of it. But what was the point in where was that first inflection point when it went from a group of, like a handful of riders to being like, well, we need to probably organize this or do something to like take it up a notch? Like, how did that moment arrive?
I can think back to one ride specifically where we were like, whoa, what's going on? It was like there were 70 people that showed up, and we're like, this thing is huge. What's happening? We always tried to ride with like the slowest rider. And at that point, it's like we had a ride leader with that, the back of the group. We had someone in the front, and there was so many varied skill levels in between within those 70 riders. We're like, we need help. And that was a big moment for us to be like, in order to like still welcome anyone that wants to show up, we need more hands on deck. And so that one ride, we're like, okay, who can help? And I think, maybe some people just assumed that ride leader role and took some people and they followed their wheels. But there was that one ride where it was like, all right, 70 people, we never imagined this would ever be this big. It's so crazy. And then, fast forward, we've, quadruple whatever X amount
Mhm.
of grown, but that same approach has stayed true that whole time. It's like people have self-identified. We've filled the gaps. We didn't start this with the mindset of having 4 structured groups with vehicle escorts, but we've had to solve problems along the way,
Hmm.
given the growth and scale.
Yeah, and I think too, also finding a location that can just have that many people. I feel like we started out like a little coffee shop, and then it's like, okay, this is way too small, so we'll move to the next coffee shop. And then we just kept outgrowing like the physical space that we were trying to fit in, especially when you add, 900 bikes into the mix. So it's a bit of a dog and pony show. Um, but yeah, it is something that I feel like we're in year 5 now. We started in 2020. I feel like year 5 we've got it dialed. But for like the first 4 years, we're like by the seat of our pants on every ride. It's like 3 days before. It's like we still don't have police escorts confirmed. Like we don't know. So it's been. I feel like we're a lot more dialed now, and I'm sure we'll continue to evolve just as time goes on. But I feel like that's been another thing. It's just like outgrowing the physical space of where we're riding out of, and then also just having a mob of people that stretch out a mile long along the highway in Texas. Like that's an insane thing to witness.
I can only imagine. I can't even wrap my head around a coffee shop that could deal with having 800 people
I
coming
know.
through the doors. Like,
Yeah, so
what?
we now ride out of like a huge brewery called Central Machine Works, and it's like an old airport hangar, I think, on the east side of Austin, and it's this awesome beer hall and big outdoor beer garden, and it's the only place we could ride out of, and they are an incredible host and home to us. So yeah, we've learned lessons along the way based on capacity and what
Mhm.
the kitchen can do, but Central Machine Works can keep up with us, which is amazing.
That's cool. I definitely can appreciate that. We did a second nature meetup here in Portland, and I got in trouble at the coffee shop because we were blocking the exit because we had,
Oh yeah,
I
it's
don't
always
know.
something.
Yeah, yeah. There's always something. It's always curious to see like how well you're received. Like somebody would be really happy to have 800 people come in for breakfast. Other people would
Yep.
be, staring daggers at you in the same scenario. So
Yep.
finding
We've had
those.
both. We've had both. Yep, we've definitely had both.
I'd love to talk a little bit more about sort of the evolution of things and correct me if there's something that I'm missing in the process. But you went from having a ride where hundreds of people started showing up and ride leaders, and now there's people following along with you. And then what I think is really interesting is now you have an app and you have this membership. Can you talk a little bit about what those two are? Because I saw on your website, like you can't even get into the membership right now. It's a once a year kind of come through the door, join this, and if you miss it, then you miss it.
Right.
What's that all about?
Given the size of the ride and where we had to physically locate the start and finish, it's like a lot of people on the east side of Austin, and to get across town, you're through the congested downtown of cars and people, and to ask our ride leaders to do that on their own was a lot. And so that's when we introduced vehicles. Introducing vehicle escorts introduced costs to the club that we otherwise didn't have before. We're very gracious to be able to show up to any place, and just by bringing business, we can, they're happy to have us. We didn't have to rent anything. We had no overhead really. Well, now, given the problem that we're solving for, we're introducing costs to the club, and it's like, how do we cover that? We sell a t-shirt every now and then, or a hat, and then that's you're not going to keep this thing afloat. So we went with the model of, okay, cool, let's work with brands and let's engage some brands that believe in what we're doing, or maybe we're already helping, and ask, hey, through the classic sponsorship model, are you willing to help this thing go forward, and we can figure out a way to make sure it's of value to you, and still feels authentic to us. And that worked for about a year or two. But as Jeremy's in the industry, as y'all are in the industry, it's like marketing dollars can change year to year, and we didn't want to be dependent on brands' budgets to be able to say, can we ride this weekend with our community, at the current scale that it is. So we're like, how can we create this value on our own? And that's what really drove the decision to like, let's create a membership. It's always been come as you are, free ride. We never ever ever would ever change that. That's what Breakfast Club is all about. But there's an option where if someone within the community wants to try to help this thing go forward, and in turn get something more out of it, we wanted to like create that space. And so we've mentioned that this is none of our full-time jobs, so we didn't want to like open this up to everyone and be like, a lot people outside of Austin, this huge membership thing that none of us can manage. So we kept it to 100 people last year, opened it up with the current brands we were working with, and it was like an absolute hit. And we found that like most people that joined that membership were our day ones or our day twos, and it's like people that just really wanted to support and be a part of it and plug in a bigger way. And so then we added a few more brands and tried to create some more unique value this year and open it up again. And it scaled a little bit. And that was super exciting for us because we're like, okay, this thing is not only manageable, but it's also somewhat successful. And the reason for the app was, well, if we have this membership, there's cool stuff in there. Like you can go to the Meteor Cafe in Austin and get like a free coffee a day. And it's like, how is that person going to show they're a Breakfast Club member? Or, do we give them a physical card? And this guy named Zolan joined the Breakfast Club team, and he's a software developer. He's like, hey, I can make Breakfast Club an app. And we're like, no way. Like, we don't know how apps work. Like, he took it and ran with it and created us this whole app the whole thing we were solving for was a tool to house our membership. But we kind of were having some fun, and Zolan had the brilliant idea of like solving for another problem we had or a gap in the community where it's like, if you're a person and not a club and you want to ride with others, how do you do it? Are you messaging in our Slack channel like, hey, what rides are going on today, or what's happening tomorrow? Or are you following a bunch of different Strava clubs trying to piece together the ride schedule? We created a tab called the Rides tab, and it's, hey, if you're just a normal person in the community and you want to host a ride, put your route up, put the details and invite others. And now we kind of have a Rides tab of just like organic community rides of like the normal person that wants to get out there, that isn't like a Strava club. So that's kind of where it went.
Interesting. So as far as like community development, you've got obviously the rides, which are the big highlight, but then you're also supporting these individual rides. And of course, you've got the weekly women's rides that are happening as well. Like you've got all these really interesting touch points where the community can come together, sometimes under the banner of Breakfast Club, but sometimes just kind of independently of that as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting too with the app. So prior to the app, we have a Slack channel that has like 2,200 or 2,300 people that are just in the Slack channel, where they can post like banter or rides, or we have the whole gear swap where everyone's selling their gear, which is great. But the app really does help kind of fill that void of like, okay, if I want to have like a private ride, I can have a private ride with like my friends and the Strava route's loaded. Or if I want to make it public to where anyone can join, it's just an easy like little, and it's kind of fun. It's like, adding a friend on Facebook or Instagram. And you have like your little card. So Zolan did a great job with it. It's more than I could have ever imagined.
We're very thankful for Zolan.
It's super cool. And it's super cool to see all of this come to life in such a natural way. It really speaks to the community of riding. And it's funny because here I want to hear about like how your experience went coming here to Portland. Yeah. And a lot of the conversation that I've had and I've had since you've been here is around like, why don't we have stuff like this here in Portland? There's a ton of people that are riding. Why is there not like a crazy group ride that happens, once a month or once a week? Or, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. And I'm like, well, what you thought of our scene and what we could do too to make it happen.
Just for context, like we're an Austin-based cycling club, and we've taken like a trip a year outside of Austin to do like a long weekend with some of our community, but we've never like really fully transplanted the experience outside of Texas. We do some rides in Dallas and in Houston every now and then, and it's close to home when we get that crossover, but we've never really like completely popped up and tried to do something far away until this past weekend with Jeremy. And Jeremy was a huge help, Jeremy and Jimmy, to get this thing up and going. And we're like riding the high of that weekend because it was absolutely amazing and so cool to like see and feel, because it felt the exact same. Like it truly felt like we were doing a ride in Austin. And I think that's a testament to kind of what Jeremy said. Our ride leaders, like we took, I think almost 20 ride leaders just wanted to go. And we got a big Airbnb and slept on floors and couches and just had a weekend of it. But like it felt the same from our organization perspective. And the community felt the exact same. It was so amazing to see, and I can let Jordy add a little bit more, but we are definitely now thinking like, wow, we can do this outside of Austin.
My biggest question mark going into that weekend was how will we be perceived by a new city that we've never ridden in? We don't know anybody here besides the core people that we've been working with to like orchestrate this whole thing. And like, yeah, we're a little bit of a rowdy, rambunctious group. Do we ride two by two all the time? No, we don't. We don't do that. We have music, we have speakers on our bikes. Like we're kind of like a little bit more of a rowdier group, in my opinion. That first ride, I was like, I don't know how it's gonna
I was like, oh
go.
no.
Yeah. But it was honestly to be received by a new community that is like open-minded to kind of what we're doing and how we do it, because it is totally out of the ordinary. And it was like a positive reception of that, was really a good thing for us, just because I was like, oh, we can actually do this. Like we're not totally off the rails. Like, I mean, we are a little bit, but like, it was cool to see your community welcome us with open arms and like totally embrace what we're trying to do.
And I had some conversations with people I met for the very first time over the span of the whole weekend, and they were saying the same thing. They're like, I've never seen so many carbon road bikes together in Portland before, and like there's an opportunity for this. And I was like, we felt the same thing in Austin, 5 years ago. We're like,
Hmm.
there's a space to be filled in just riding bikes and building that community and making those relationships on and off the bike and through cycling that just didn't really exist in Austin. And it seems like maybe there's a bit of that gap or opportunity in Portland as well that was filled from within the community on Saturday. And it was so cool to see
Hmm.
that, like, with y'all's help providing that space, it was immediately filled.
Portland bike scene is it's a good one. There's a
So good.
strong
Sure.
crew here. If you were going to bring it anywhere, I feel like this would be a
Oh,
top contender.
For sure.
It makes me think about how up until this point, a lot of the growth that you've experienced, through this conversation has been sort of problem solving and fixing uh, issues that you've identified along the way. But now looking to like expanding out to a place like Portland of like, oh, I've got to imagine that your experience here has maybe given you a different perspective on growth instead of solving problems, but now looking ahead to say, wait, why couldn't we create Breakfast Club Portland? Why couldn't we create Breakfast Club Santa Fe, wherever? How did that, what are the conversations like after coming back from a successful trip like this and potentially setting your sights on potential growth or opportunities that might exist?
it's never been more exciting for us to like have this conversation because like you nailed it. It's like we've always been reactive. It's always kind of been like, how do we keep up with what's going on, versus now we did shift and we're like, let's take a risk of our own accord and like try to like see what happens. And I think that it's people like Jeremy that just like of his own free will helped us so much and like made that weekend a success. And it's like there are people within that community that like self-identified, kind of like how our ride leaders have self-identified throughout the past 5 years, that just believe in what we're doing and how that can bring value to their own community, to the Portland community. And so I think that we're thinking about, the last thing we ever wanted it to feel like, or would ever want this to feel like going forward, is like, oh, Breakfast Club is here. Like Portland felt like it came from within because it did come from within. And we were just like guests of this much bigger experience.
Hmm.
And I think that if we can take that and kind of show that, like the typical, elite road cycling approach is not all that road cycling is. If we can like create that feeling outside of Austin and in Portland and other cities, I think that road cycling isn't dead, and I think it is a fun thing to be a part of, and there's a pretty bright future in that.
Yeah, I think too, going on that point as well, is we've always tossed around this idea of how would we expand Breakfast Club out of Austin, and we've always said what makes Breakfast Club unique is the people that help support it and run it. You know, our ride leaders is like the culture of Breakfast Club, and it's like, well, how do we rinse and repeat that in a new city? Like we don't know like what their flavor of what their certain flavor is. But I think to Grant's point is like these people like Jeremy, like Mark, like others, Sam, that are self-identifying saying like we want to bring that here. Like what can we do to add our own little flavor to it? And I think that is like a very good like kind of
Hmm.
guiding light that this could potentially move forward in another city in the future.
I'm also curious too, because like this conversation is happening, you know, beyond Breakfast Club in other places too, right? Like, do you know like Case of the Mondays
Yeah.
up in Washington?
Yep.
And they're similar thing that's happening in I think it's North Bend, Washington, where they're
Yep.
getting like hundreds of people that are coming out, and now they've got 20 ride leaders that
Hmm.
they're
Mm-hmm.
doing their thing. Is there, in your minds, is there like an urgency to like franchise it, to capitalize on it while it's hot, or are you just like, this, I mean, it is the way with all of these things, right? Like it's all happening naturally, and everybody's really stoked, and
Hmm.
run clubs are a thing right now,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys have experience with that stuff too. What is there a something that you're trying to capitalize on, or is it just like we just ride it and see what happens?
We could have forced it years ago to try to like do something like this, and we have all agreed that like the magic is the fact that it's never been forced. It's never been the goal to do that, and to like continually kind of chase these cool opportunities is how it's kind of all made sense, and how it does still like we can, at the end of the day, think back, 5 years into this, it's like, yeah, we've still stayed true to, why we started in the first place. And so I think that we would be remiss to not consider the fact that there's a crazy opportunity that we've kind of like brought to life, and there is something there, and it shows that like we're not just a bunch of crazy people in Austin riding all together. Like there's something there. So we would be remiss to not really try to think about how to pursue that in an authentic
Yeah.
way. But I don't think, it's none of our full-time jobs, and we're about at the limit that we can be, until we probably need to think about how it does. And so
Yeah.
there's that scale factor also that we're trying to consider, that like it is very much a labor of love for a lot of people, and if we do want to take that to the next step, it's going to take a bigger commitment from the team as well.
Yeah, I think something that we've done really well that has stemmed from like back in the beginning is being very intentional with everything that we do. Whenever we do something, we want to do it really, really well. We don't want to half-ass it. We don't want to cut corners. Though it may seem like things are kind of like unraveling on the inside, like we want to make sure it looks buttoned up and dialed, and people are safe and all that good stuff. But I think, to Grant's point, like having an intentional moment, like for example at the Nike, when we were in Portland going to Nike, and having that like little moments that are meaningful and people can look back on as a memory, is something that we've really taken a lot of pride in, and that I think that we would want to continue to do that moving forward, and by forcing it or rushing it like that, something's going to fall, and it won't be as executed as it should be.
We're also just looking for a reason to go back to Portland. We fell in love, so let's just keep that thing
Yep.
going, please.
You guys got the CEO of Nike to come out and address you.
Yeah.
They don't even make cycling stuff, and he
Yeah.
was there like pumping everybody up. Like that's really fucking cool. Like congrats. Like
Surreal
you
moment. It
you should,
was,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
be proud of the things that you have going on. And there, there's also like you have like this weird marriage of cool designs and awesome brand partners, and
Yeah.
everybody's really stoked. It was super cool to see that come together. So kudos to you.
I'm so curious about this sort of holding down full-time jobs while also executing something that's insanely successful. Like by most, if not all the metrics, this is an absolute success. And anytime you have something that is showing promise on this level, there are these questions that come from the periphery of like, hey, when are you going to do this full time? How are you monetizing? Like how are you going to do this all and put all your effort into it? And I think one of the things that people miss out on is that like actually by not making it your full-time thing, it gives you the freedom to put extra resources in or not have to make it. Like when you introduce money into stuff, it sometimes can complicate things in a way that you don't expect. And I'd be really curious to hear from both of you, just like what your take is on, like, are you almost intentionally avoiding making it a full time thing because, I don't know.
Yeah.
Jordy, what do you think? Like, I mean, where do you stand on this thing? Because, if you really wanted to, you could just say like, hey, these women's rides like present a huge opportunity. The industry needs this kind of stuff. I could put all my energy into this and really focus on it. I'm sure I can get enough brand partners to make it all make sense. Like, let's just make this be a thing and stand it up. But at the same time, yeah, like not having to rely on that is probably sort of a relief too. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel, I mean, I know eventually, like Grant said, like we will probably need somebody to work at Breakfast Club at some point. It will probably be Grant. We've always said Grant was Breakfast Club's first employee, but he doesn't make anything.
Yep. Still
Um,
accurate.
number one employee. Um, yeah, but no, I think it would be it's a hard balance to strike. So my day job, I do medical device sales, like, which is another whole like demanding job in itself, and why it has been so important to have such a reliable team. If I can't make a women's ride, who's going to help lead that ride? Like making sure there's duplication among roles has been, I think, helpful in what we do, and being able to work with the core team like Grant, Preston, Zolan. We call it the Breakfast Club kitchen. Um, we work really, really well together. And so we have each other's backs and can rely on each other and lean on each other whenever, Grant also travels pretty extensively and has long hours too. So I mean, it's just having that core team. But yeah, I think eventually, if we want to take it to the next level, it probably will happen. I don't know what that looks like though.
I think the balance is where we find a lot of still the fulfillment and enjoyment in doing this is like, we have what sustains us professionally and financially, and then we can still use Breakfast Club as the passion project and the passion that it
Hmm.
requires to continue to be what it is. And it's an outlet for all of us in all of our unique ways. It's like Breakfast Club is an outlet for Jordy in a different way than it is for me, than it is for Will Bryant, who does all of our creative and art. And so it's just, I think that is part of the magic. Aaron, like you said, it's like, it's we're intentionally not forcing it because that's why, we still love it so much and we think and believe it is what it is. So going forward, yeah, it's gonna, how do we find that balance? If it does scale to a new level, that'll be the problem for us to solve next.
Do you ever get any pressure from, you guys have a pretty long list of sponsors that support Breakfast Club, but do you feel like you get pressure from them at any point to, hey, we want you to make this piece of content, or we want you to do this thing, we want to pay you so that you do this thing. Like, do you feel like actually there's a different level of pressure, not from people on the outside asking you how you're going to monetize, but people literally trying to give you money to do more things?
Yeah, we've intentionally kind of not accepted all of the offers to work with brands because we know, one, we want to be able to do that relationship justice, and two, just because like we approach these relationships, I think, in a bit of an untraditional way than like a typical brand would work with a sports, like a racing team, for instance. It's like we don't have the ability to slap logos all over a kit and then go stand on a podium. We try to tell stories, and we do that through social media and other ways, and but it's like we represent and work with our brands, I think, in a much different way than brands typically do work with cycling clubs that are more like performance driven. And so we approach these conversations up front in that way, and I don't think we ever do feel forced. We have amazing partners that work with us, and
Yeah.
it is all just like rooted in the same feeling, and why we get out there on the bike every day. So we're grateful.
This whole thing kind of breaks my brain a little bit, honestly. Like
Same.
from a sports marketer side, I'm like, why isn't, just connecting these dots of like the opportunity that you have because you've held on to the authenticity. I get it. I totally get it. On the flip side of it, it's like think what you could reinvest in if you did these other things. But also,
Mhm.
yeah, it's tricky, right? Because you end up saying yes to one thing, it makes you say no to another thing. And the focus, I think, if anything, just looking at what you've collectively been able to do in terms of like getting people active, bringing people into the sport, and maintaining this community and growing it, that is number one. And you've kept your number one, the number one the whole time, and not taking your eye off the ball,
Mhm.
which I think is really super, super impressive.
Cycling in general is not known as a welcoming sport. Road cycling,
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
top of that, is very not welcoming,
Yeah.
Mhm.
oftentimes, or gets that sort of stigma. And you guys have I would say successfully broken that mold.
Yeah.
So yeah,
One
keep
of our
keep going.
one of our most fun little anecdotes that we love to tell is that Breakfast Club started. We've had two people join independently. They met at Breakfast Club. They were like, oh, we like each other. They started dating. They got engaged. They got married. They had a baby. That baby now comes to Breakfast Club rides. And that is like how we're like, okay, this thing is still very worth it for many reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
So cool. I
Yeah, no, I think just especially coming from like a women in cycling perspective, like it has always been I learned how to ride bike. I did triathlon and I learned how to properly ride a bike from my best friend's dad. So I would go to his like old man bike group and I was like, there's got to be a better way. And there truly wasn't for so long. And so, kind of like to that point, like breaking that stigma and mold and creating something new that is like thirsted for. Like, people want that, especially too. My husband's a runner. Of course, runners get injured because they pound themselves into the ground. But, having that runner to cycling pipeline as well, we have so many runners that are now like, rehabbing and cross training in the bike world, which is really cool to see as well. So we've been able to capture like a whole new demographic of athletes that are, specializing in one thing, but they're like, okay, I'll do the cycling thing too because I guess it's good cardio and it's a little bit easier on my joints. Like that's a really cool thing to also see.
I think there are a lot of correlations, right, between run clubs and what you guys are doing. And I'd love to just understand better, do you look at what's happening in that run club space for inspiration or for ideas or just any sort of insight? Are you paying attention to that? And I guess, do you see yourself kind of in the same vein as that, or do you think there's something that other than our weapon of choice being a bike instead of running shoes, do you see a big difference?
I'll speak on this because I do a little bit more running than Grant does.
Yes, you do.
So I think there's something unique to Austin that I haven't seen in other cities. So Austin is very much athletically influenced. Like, there's obviously a ton of different run groups in Austin, but what's unique about Austin is it's not like, oh, I go run with one run group. That's my one run group, and I'm only going to run with them. There's a lot of cross contamination and crossover from different run groups. It's like, okay, this run group's on Monday, and then I'm going to go over and I'm going to run with this run group on Tuesday. That's a different group. Which, I know it's not like that in New York. It's not really like that in LA. So I think that is a unique Austin thing. As far as like similarities to running and to cycling groups, I think it's an apple and oranges conversation. It's so, doing a run group is, geographically, you're not going very far. Everyone's on foot. Putting 600 people going 30 miles an hour in lycra, like that's insane. So I think it's kind of just a different conversation. But I think Austin is unique in the fact that everyone's willing to try each other's flavor of like club, which I think is really cool. But as far as weapon of choice, everyone talks about like the speed shoe, whatever. Uh, we have our favorite bikes that we like to ride. So, we're a specialized house, so we'll have to promote specialized.
Do you see that in terms of, I know influence is kind of a weird word in all of sports, but do you see that kind of like trickle down of, maybe what the ride leaders are riding, and then like a month later, you see a lot more people riding that same bike or wearing that same normal kit, or I mean, are you seeing that kind of impact? I've got to imagine the partners, the internal conversations that those partners are having when they're like, "Hey, we're going to get involved with Breakfast Club," are probably exactly that of like they're reaching this many riders on a regular basis. If we put them on this bike or these wheels or this helmet or whatever, there's a decent chance that 800 other people are going to follow suit. Do you see that sort of happening organically through the group where the ride leaders are kind of influencing the rest of the riders?
You have to. The ride leaders are
Absolutely.
so cool.
See, exactly that. It's like if you're staring at a ride leader for, and unlike running, you spend, hours at a time on a bike with others, right? You spend
Hmm.
hours staring at a ride leader and you're like, oh, what wheels they got on there? What bike are they riding? What's that helmet? What's that kit? So I think it has happened in year after year after year that we do this. We just see it more and more because, I mean, human nature, you see groups, everyone starts to maybe kind of act or look similar. You want to, be around others that, you know, look and feel the same as you. And so that definitely has happened within Breakfast Club and within the Austin community. And I think that it's never been something we've really tried to force. It's just been very much something of like we're working with these amazing brands and people that we want to work with, and we are using their product. And then in turn, that does transfer to the community in some way.
And we have seen it too. We've been with different brands, and as we switch away from one brand and wear another brand, we see it visually, like on our rides. Like everyone is starting to change what they're wearing or what they're riding. So I think like Grant and I have talked about it. It's like, let's see how long it takes because I'm always curious to see like the speed of change. We've been on Specialized for quite some time now, so as far as bikes, also it's like a much higher, bigger investment. So I'm not sure how that would go, but um, we have no intention of changing that part of our, setup. But seeing like the different brands that we wear, I'm just like, I don't know. It happens relatively quickly.
And it's also something we're aware of that like cycling is an expensive sport. Road cycling is an expensive hobby to have. And like we would never want to set the expectation that like you have to look or have a certain thing to show up to a ride because that very much is not true. Sure, it has naturally kind of happened over the years of us doing this and working with these certain brands, but we're not numb to the fact that like it's a barrier to like upgrade your cycling kit or
100%.
get
Yeah.
new wheels or do whatever, and some of that stuff takes time, and that's why we don't approach our relationships as a 1 year transactional thing. It's like, hey, we want to build a relationship and kind of do this mutually together.
I think too, also having that aspect of like being approachable. Yeah, we have cool stuff, but we're also riding with people that are just now getting into cycling. And so maybe it's like, okay, they have their bike, maybe they start out with a jersey, whatever it is. But it's like we want to maintain that like non-elitist type of mentality, which is like kind of the core of what Breakfast Club is.
I'd love to hear, you've been doing this now for 5 years. What's the ride for each of you? What's the ride that stands out to you over the last 5 years? There's got to be a story. There's got to be a moment where you just felt like, wow, this is the thing. Like, did you have that moment on any ride? I've got to imagine.
And why was it Portland this last weekend?
I was gonna say we've talked about a couple of
Yeah.
them. Every ride better than the last, and our last ride was Portland, so it's the best one. I think I've mentioned a couple. One of them was that inflection point where we're like, hey, we need more than just the people we have. That like 70-person group ride that we had in the first year. Um, and the standout one that we've talked about a lot is Portland. We had this amazing experience that felt the same way. A week ago, 5 years into this thing is just really really amazing and to have. But I think that last year we had it's always in August. We have our biggest ride. We had our
Yeah.
biggest ride ever to date last August, and it was like 110 degrees in Austin. And that was when we hit, if not 1,000, almost 1,000 people. And we had as many ride leaders, I think, as we've ever had on that ride. Everyone operated to the absolute best of their ability. And there were no issues. And that was a huge shift for us to be like,
Mhm.
we've always been scared of continuing to grow, but like we've built that infrastructure in our people to be able to manage that. And like we ended that ride and a lot of us, you'd be like, oh, like it's a weight off. Like we're like, that was so amazing. And so just see that then bring energy back into the whole ride leader crew. That was a big moment for me last year when we could manage something of that scale.
Yeah, I think that that last August ride was like one of the most memorable for me, just because you look back behind you and you can't see the end of the group. Like it, I remember as we were going downhill, I was looking up the hill and I was like, they're still coming. Like there's so, I just like
And
couldn't
that's
fathom,
B
like,
group.
I'm like, that's just one group. And I was like, I can't, where's the end? There is no end. And I think another like meaningful ride was this one, our first year in Santa Fe. Just having like a huge number of people that were willing to pick up and just go 60 people pick up, go to another city. And these are people that you've ridden with. Maybe you know them, maybe you don't know them, but really getting to know them on a more personal level. I thought that was like a really cool moment. We do this massive hill climb in Santa Fe where everyone's like, you wait up there until the last person's finished. And so that was a really cool moment
Yeah.
for me as well. It's just to see like people really do care about each other and about riding bikes.
I think if there was a lesson that I'm picking up on this one, it's actually related to the pod we did with Jeremy, and the title of that podcast was "You Can Just Do Things." And if I
Nice.
think about the story of Breakfast Club, you can just do things. You get your buddies together because you didn't want to go on this gnarly hill ride and you got breakfast instead, and then you got together with some friends and invited more people, and then you just did things, and then there were a lot more people that showed up, and you had to call an audible and eventually get police escorts and go to some giant, brew pub with a huge parking lot. And you just continued to evolve and continued to just do things. And you've added so many interesting elements based on what needed to be done, how to welcome more people to the ride, how to make
Mm-hmm.
this an inclusive environment where people can really, you know, get started and become part of the community, not just only including the people that were already cyclists, but think about how many cyclists you've probably created from scratch. Really impressive. I mean, hats off to you guys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. It's super cool. How many people reach out to you to do group rides like in other cities? And what's going to be? I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be more after this, but how many? And what's going to be your next one?
Yeah, it's funny. There were some replies even just after last weekend, like, someone in Denver, like, oh my gosh, we don't have anything like this in Denver. So I think like this year has been a big moment for Breakfast Club in terms of like people outside of Texas learning about it. And so I think that getting back to that opportunity, I think there is a really cool opportunity to maybe try to like respond to that DM in Portland and be like, or in Denver and be like, oh yeah, there isn't, maybe there's space to go visit. And
Hmm.
so I think that that's an opportunity that we'll probably try to bring to life more so now
Hmm.
than we did in the past.
I feel like I'm not doing it justice to say it's a best kept secret of Austin, Texas, because I feel like the cycling community is very aware. We got to give our shout out to our buddy Peter Abraham for even connecting. I mean, he made the trip from LA to Austin because he just had to see this in person. It
Yeah.
sounded like the craziest thing, and he went there and was absolutely floored and came back like, you guys, look, check this out, and then yeah, you come to Portland and you potentially go to Denver or wherever else, and I just feel like yeah, there's some real magic here, and it's so fun just to kind of dissect it with you over the last hour to really get a better understanding of it. Um, well, we always end every episode with a segment called BPC, which is brand product content. And it's really just kind of our chance to share, something that we've been excited about over the last little bit. And Grant and Jordy, I'm going to let you two go first since you're our guests today. Grant, maybe you want to jump in with a brand that you've, discovered, a product you're excited about, a piece of content you love. Like, what do you think?
Brand and then content from that brand. This year I have really leaned, like, nutrition has kind of been a space. Like, I come from athletic background, I've tried a lot of different things, and I've really leaned heavily into Martin this year. And then just this morning they put out a reel or a video that says like, don't trust essentially like, don't trust the marketing or the opinions, like trust your gut. And for some reason I've gravitated towards this gel or this bar all year long that I felt has really made me strong and powerful. And it's because it just works for my body. And so I am a huge fan of Martin this year, and I hope that that continues.
I always wondered what that stuff tasted like because it's like black and white. Usually they have like oh, it's lemon lime or it's whatever, and there's some packaging that lets you know. I'm like, what flavor is white with black print? Like, what is this?
Yeah,
And
It's
no
not.
flavor. No flavor.
I, I always thought that it kind of, I actually tested it out a while ago, and I kind of thought it tasted like toasted marshmallow. That was my
Ah,
vibe. I don't know if you get that at all. Maybe you've had way more of them than I have, but my
yeah,
first impression was like, oh, it's kind of like a toasted
yeah.
marshmallow.
And
I
the
don't know.
caffeine one has a bit of a kick to it. I kind of like that. So it has a bit of a bite.
Very cool.
I feel like Martin has just stripped out all the extra anything that you could add, and it just is just the essentials. That's
Hmm.
what's in there.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, we
anyway.
we had this drink in college that I ran track and field in college, and it was like just we called it malto, but it was just malto
Yeah.
dextrin mixed into
Hmm.
water, so it made just like thick water that was like your
Early stage Martin.
recovery. And
Yeah.
that is what Martin's is. So yeah, I think it doesn't have much of a flavor, but yeah, I get why you what the I also love marshmallows. So
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, Jordy, what do you got for BPC?
I think I'm gonna have to go with an Austin-based designer, Veda jewelry and sunglasses. They're super cool sunglasses, but she also makes really unique jewelry pieces that are kind of eccentric. Um, I don't know. I'm a jewelry girl, so I think that's what I'm gonna have to go with, which is completely not related to cycling at all.
All good. That's
But
exactly
I was
what this
thinking,
is for.
yeah, and they have really cool branding as well. That's kind of edgy, which is something that great. We don't really do. I mean, we do cool and elevated and like this is like edgy. I don't know in a different way. Um, so yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go with Beta.
Very cool. We do edgy. We're Portland. We're
Yeah.
we're right there
Yeah,
with Austin. We're good.
yeah.
But both weird cities, right? We can relate over
Keep it weird.
that.
exactly.
All right, Jeremy, what you got? You're my resource
Um,
for most things BPC, so no pressure.
Okay.
okay, I have three books, three publications, and they fit into the like I don't I all night I was like, okay, which one's brand, which one's product, which one's content. I mean, they're kind of all three. Richard Sachs, do you know who he is? He's a handmade bike maker.
Oh, wow.
He's got this. He put out his this own. He's on volume two now. This is volume one, but it's just like musings about building bikes and life, and it's
Nice.
I like it. I like
beautiful and
it.
it fits in your pocket and
I was
it's
like, it looks like it stows nicely.
yeah.
Yeah, you can just
Oh,
put it
not that one.
anywhere. How
Yeah,
cute.
clearly I like books, but
Hmm.
that one is super cool. He's just like he's a bike builder that has been around forever. I've known him for a long time. Like he asked me to do a review of it and I forgot to do it, so this is also my review. It's super cool.
Perfect.
Then there's this it's like they're all kind of sport related too. This is like a jujitsu focused publication called Power Trip from LA. I think this is issue one. It's all about play. It's all about, jujitsu and I think
That
there's
looks
some
super cool.
yeah, I think there's some Apple designers involved in it. My friend Joe Staples is kind of like helping back it.
Oh.
It's super cool.
Dang.
I love it. This is my favorite thing is looking at stuff from other sports and just figuring out how to take that inspiration and fold it into cycling stuff. What can we
Yeah, and
learn? What can we see?
it's definitely got this like kind of I don't know how you it's like a risograph, it's
Dang.
That's
It's
cool.
super
Very
fun. It's
cool.
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah. You got to be watching the YouTube version of the pod right now because that looks so cool.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes. For those
He's showing
for those
picture
at
books.
home,
For
I'm
those
like,
of you
it's super
listening,
cool. They're
it
like, what?
it looks amazing.
And
Okay.
then Magali Rochette, um, amazing cyclocross racer from Canada, put out her own book. I mean, she talks about cyclocross fever all the time. And this is like, it's like part memoir, part how to race cyclocross.
Wow, that's
And it just
beautiful.
Oh,
has
that's
like,
sick.
Yeah.
it has like it has like amazing photos. It's got all these contributors that she's worked with over the years, getting photos down. Um, this whole section is about like creating your own routine. It's got lessons in
Uh,
it.
Oh,
Wow. I
that's
love
I
cool.
mean,
this.
and I'm curious about this publisher as
B-side.
well, B-side. So, because I'm like, I don't know how she did this, but this is fantastic.
looks like a piece
It's
of art.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
does.
it really is. It's like the best coffee table book you've seen. There's like checklists in here.
Dang,
Wow.
I'm like,
it's
I want,
nice.
and it also makes me like, I picked this up and I was like, I want to make one of these.
It's amazing to see something that like you didn't know existed, you didn't know could be done, and then you see it and you're like, "Oh, I want more. I want like 100 of
Hmm.
these. I want everybody to make this." Cyclocross is dead. Yeah, this looks incredible.
It's really cool, and it's not like it's not nothing.
That's a
Right.
yeah, that's a healthy book. A lot of effort and intention went into putting that thing together. So
220 pages. Like, come on, this is
Wow.
really cool.
that's very
So
cool.
that's
Awesome.
my that's my BPC. My BPC is that print is not dead.
Print is
Mm,
definitely
love
not
it.
dead.
Love it.
Yeah. Once again, Jeremy, you have overachieved on BPC.
Yeah.
Are you gonna follow that up, Aaron? How are you gonna do it?
I got a good
Yeah.
one. Our friend Yuri Oswald has this series of videos called Horizons, and he just released a new one for Ajo, which is this community down in Arizona. And I absolutely love these. They're basically like traveling by bike through really cool areas that you could ride. He rides a gravel bike through this zone, and it's just so well shot. The motion graphics for it are out of control, but like I just love Yuri's vibe, and I love the way that these come together. It's really artistic, but it's just it feels accessible. Like I wanted to like take my gravel bike out of the garage and go to Ajo, Arizona to go ride my bike there. It looks fun, it looks cool, and it yeah, just everything about it is really cool. So his Horizon series, he's gone to a couple other places to do this as well, but this one just came out. You definitely got to check it out. Big shout out to our friend Yuri too.
How do you watch
Yuri's
it?
It's
Yuri's
on
great.
YouTube, and
YouTube.
it'll be in the. I'll
YouTube.
link it in the show notes. I'll link all this stuff in the show notes so everybody can follow it up. But
I'm gonna go watch
um,
that.
yeah, once you're done watching this podcast on YouTube, so you can see all Jeremy's print media stuff, then just flip over to
Yeah.
Yuri's
But
YouTube.
also go listen to Yuri's podcast that was on here as well, because
Yeah,
he's I love that guy. He's fantastic, and
yeah,
you'll run into him somewhere, and you'll know when you run into him because he's just super excited all the time.
I will link that one in the show notes too. That was a really fun episode. Yeah, awesome. Well, Grant, Jordy, thank you so much for joining us today. This was so fun. I'm so glad we had a chance to sit down with you and have a chat. Next time you come to Portland, I will absolutely join the ride.
Love
Yes.
it.
And I'm sure there are many, many others that will also do the same. We'll be definitely paying attention. And yeah, thanks again for what you do.
Thanks for having us.